In this video, we're going to use the quadratic formula to solve a quadratic equation. And then we're also going to use the discriminant formula, which is part of the quadratic formula, which will determine how many real solutions you're going to have. So in example 1, we're going to use the quadratic formula, and then we're going to use the discriminant to determine how many and what kind of roots we're going to have. So the quadratic formula, you're going to use this when it's in standard form, and we have to label our A, our B, our C. And then we're going to plug that into our equation, or the quadratic formula. So I have x equaling the opposite of b, so we have -3 plus or minus the square root of our b squared, so 3 squared minus 4 times our a, which is 1, times our c, which is a -11. All that we're going to divide by 2a, which would be 2 times 1. Now the first thing I'm going to do is, before I finish the quadratic formula, I'm going to use the discriminant part. The discriminant part, actually no, I'll do the discriminant part at the very end. So here, I'm going to get my calculator out because it'll be quicker to solve it on our calculator once I'll have it all written out here. So here I'm going to start off with parentheses, -3, and I'm going to do plus. I don't have a plus or minus sign, so I'm just going to do plus first. And then I have the square root, and here I'm going to do 3 squared, or you can just write 9. Type in 9, that's fine. Minus 4 times 1 times -11, end parentheses, end parentheses. And the reason why I'm doing end parentheses first is because that closes the radical, and the second set of parentheses closes the whole numerator. Then I'm going to divide that by 2 times 1, divide that by 2. That gives me an answer of 2.140054945. So this gives me an irrational number. So I'm going to write this rounded to the nearest hundredth. So I'm going to have x is about 2.14. Now there is another another solution to that one. Let's see if there's another one. So if I hit second, enter, enter, that gives me, types everything in here, and I just need to change this to a minus sign. Then hit enter, and it gives me a -5.14. So that's using the quadratic formula. Now what does the discriminant tell you? The discriminant tells you how many solutions and what kind of solutions you're going to have. So if you look in the table down below here, when the discriminant is greater than 0, so when it's positive, you're going to have 2 real solutions, or 2 real roots. So the example that we just did, that gave us 2 real roots here. If the discriminant is equal to 0, that means you're going to have 1 real root. And the reason why you're going to have 1 real root is because the vertex is the x-intercept. And if the discriminant is negative, you're going to have 2 complex roots, which means there's going to be no real solution because you're going to have an imaginary number involved. So let's look at the first one here. Let's do the discriminant here. So we're just doing everything in the radical. So that's going to be 3 squared. And then I don't need the radical part here, so let me just get rid of that. I just need to use this formula, b squared minus 4ac. So 3 squared minus 4 times 1 times -11. This is going to give us 9 minus a -44, which is going to give us a positive 53. Since my answer is positive, I know I'm going to have 2 real solutions or real roots, which is what I have over here. We found it was about 2.14 and about negative 5.14. Example 2. I want to make this in standard form, so I'm going to add 3 to both sides. And now I have 3x squared minus 6x plus 3 equals 0. And now I'm going to put those into our formula here. And I have the opposite of b, so the opposite of negative 6 plus or minus square root of b squared. So now our b is going to be a negative 6 squared. Make sure you put that in parentheses. Minus 4 times our a, which is 3, times our c, which is a positive 3. Going to divide all that by 2 times 3. We're going to grab our calculator and we're going to enter this in here. So to save some time, I'm going to hit enter and change some parts. Instead of doing a negative 6, I'm going to just type in a positive 6. So I'm going to get rid of this negative and I'm going to put 6 minus, that's fine, equals. I'm not going to put negative 6 in parentheses. I just know it's always going to be a positive number. So I'm just going to do 6 squared. And why do I say it's always going to be a positive? Because anytime I square a number, it's always going to give you a positive result, whether the number is negative or positive. So I'm going to make that 6 squared minus 4 times 3 times 3. Get rid of these other numbers. End parentheses, divided by, instead of dividing by 2, I'm going to say divide by 6 because 2 times 3 is 6. I hit enter, and it'll tell us that x is going to equal 1. Well, let's see if there's another solution. So I hit second, enter. I'm going to change the sign to a positive or a plus. Hit enter, and it also gives me a 1, the same answer. So that means there's one real solution, and let's verify it with the discriminant. So again, the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. So I'm going to do negative 6 squared minus 4 times 3 times 3. So I have negative 6 squared is 36 minus 4 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 4 is 36. And the discriminant is 0. And because the discriminant is 0, there's one real solution, which we have here as x equaling 1. So that's how you can use the quadratic formula and the discriminant formula.